was Okayplayer the beginning of social media? And that to me, so when I'm thinking of the legacy of Okayplayer, I'm almost thinking like, damn, if I just, if we just stuck around just a little bit, we would have had like I think we, and I'm saying we because you're very much a part. To me, I feel the least part of that world. I feel like I'm the Big Bang Theory, the spark of it, and the rest of you guys from Ange on up, kind of defined what it was. You know what I mean? So, I think now I'm thinking in terms of like, oh man, I could have invented social media.
I say you did. Like I always say, it was Twitter, it was MySpace, it was Craigslist, it was Tinder, it was whatever app you needed to be. And if you had more bandwidth, it would have been Instagram. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It was whatever app you needed.
Okayplayer was all those things together. Yeah.
And even in terms of like the idea of verification, like a thing by your name to let you know that you were a person.
We were the first blue check system. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it's such a crazy legacy to have set.
I'm proud of that legacy. I think I was just so not small-minded but local-minded that I thought I was building a playground where I can argue about this hip hop record and that hip hop record.
Right.
I'll say that my first view into what we formally were introduced as you remember it was first called the Super Information Highway?
I do remember that.
Before
the World Wide Web.
Right. And so I had the same publicist that Public Enemy did. Ursula Smith.
Okay.
She used to have a company called Set to Run, and then she started her own company. And so I went with Ursula Smith, and Ursula had a copy of the then unreleased Music and Our Message album by Public Enemy.
Oh shit!
And the very last song was called Harry Allen's. It was basically an interlude in which Harry Allen in 3 minutes will basically accurately predict what we're going through right now with the music industry. He's basically predicting that, and it's called Harry Allen's Super Information Highway Call of the Future or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
Don't quote me. But Harry's basically explaining there's going to be a time in which this device, in sort of a Jetsons-like future, like you'll be able to beam your song up to other planets or to other parts of the world, and he's basically predicting what we're doing now.
I don't remember this at all.
Because that was a hard album to get through.
It was a hard album.
But I'm one of those committed. I will at least listen to something 5 times before I offer how I feel about it. And so I got it all the way to the last thing. And I called Harry one day what's the Super Information Highway? And he sort of explained this thing to me, and I didn't quite get it. And then we did our first American tour with the Beastie Boys. And they would do these things in which they would hand out, if you remember, back in the day, you could hand out someone these CDs from AOL.
Yeah, the AOL online, they'll get the free hours.
Get extra hours on your computer, that sort of thing. And the Beastie Boys were doing that at their concerts.
Wait, the Beastie Boys were giving out the internet at the
Yes. The Beastie Boys were handing out these CDs at the concert. And I was just like, well, I don't have a laptop, so I don't know what's this for? And they explained to me that they're able to communicate with their fan base. And so I was kind of, whatever. And I would see them on and off throughout the years, doing stuff for Tibet or whatever. So I think around 97 or 98, there was a point where backstage at one of those Tibetan shows, in which I think it was either on Ad Rock's computer or whatever, but Courtney Love was I think Courtney Love and Michael Stipe were having an argument or a battle about some underground band or whatever. And I was like, wait a minute. So they're having a real-time conversation, and they're on each part of the world, and this is not a fax machine thing. This is how they're communicating, and it's like the telephone without talking. And once they explained that, I was like, I want to do that. And then once I got something called Web TV.
What is web TV? Was web TV like? I mean, because there wasn't really a web back then.
So
what did
in
it
1997, there was something called web TV, and what it was this enabled you to hook up your computer as if you had a VCR or something or a DVD player. You hook up this box to your television.
I remember it. It was like DVR kind of.
Yes.
Okay.
You would hook it up to your television, and with this remote pad, I could go on the internet and read a review of the Beatnuts album, whatever. It would take like hours to load or whatever. And so
5 minutes per letter.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's when I started looking up, like, to see how the Beastie Boys were progressing, and I was like, wow, they're really advanced with their thing. And then I looked at Hole's thing, and I looked up all these rock bands, and they seem to have the ball rolling on what we would know as the website. And so then I started looking at acts I would listen to. And, like Columbia, this is like 98, so Columbia put up like a Lauryn Hill website. So when Columbia built Lauryn Hill's website, like basically all I learned about Lauryn Hill was that she was a fan of Bob Marley's music. Jive Records, I think, put up maybe Q-Tip and Fife's favorite recipes. So Q-Tip's world famous spaghetti sauce is the one thing that I learned like about A Tribe Called Quest, and that was it. And I was just like, well, I'm gonna take everything that I learned from the Beastie Boys, Hole, and REM, and I'm gonna put this thing on steroids because we can gather a flock, and if I can get all of our fans together in one fell swoop, I mean, I imagined that I was going to be like sort of this Willy Wonka figure that would like leave you guys golden tickets around. Like I'll be the benevolent leader that leaves hidden tickets in the garbage bin of the Gap or like in the changing room of like Old Navy. Like that's the thing I wanted to do. But and then I met Angela Nissel, and she totally just literally changed everything about how I thought about my future. I think around October of 1998, this was like maybe a month after I did the Great Day in Hip Hop shoot for Double XL, which was like in September. In October, I basically reconnected with Ange, someone that I met back in our days of insurance salespeople for J.C. Penney's.
It's like Salt and Pepper and Kid and Play at the call center.
Exactly. At one point, me, Ange, and Tariq worked at this, it was good money selling insurance. And I told her this idea. Like, I thought I was being, like, real forward thinking, like, yes, I have web TV. And she's just, with all her immense knowledge of what the internet was and all that stuff as a college student, like, she just held it like a snowball in July. Like, I'm like, yeah, and I have web TV and da-da-da-da. And she's just looking at me like, silly Negro. Like, and she's like, so really just web TV, that's what you see the future as? And she's like, no, I think you should really invest in your future. And the first thing she did was she talked me out of buying. I was about to buy an SUV without a license. So I was just going to Little C's Biggie.
I got to ask, what type of, was it an MPV? MPVs ran shit in the 90s.
Or
Pathfinders.
I think I was going to get a Pathfinder because by that point, I didn't realize, so the day that Things Fall Apart came out, I didn't realize that Tariq had already gotten his driver's license like 3 months before.
Yeah.
And so he was putting down for a Pathfinder. And we were also friends with Santi Gold, and she had a Pathfinder. And I was like, well, I don't drive, so I got to find me a Little C's to drive me around, and I'm going to get a Pathfinder. And she was just like, oh, dog, don't She's like, can you just please not be a rap cliche?
Yeah.
And I was like, huh? It's like, look, unless you have a license, don't buy a car. You should take half this money, buy a computer, and build a website, which is like probably the most unattractive thing. Like, who's going to take...
In the 90s?
Yeah, and especially
that shit is
like
crazy to say to a person in the 90s.
This is my first like batch of real money that I've had in my hands. Like real, like I can almost make it rain for half a second in an Atlanta strip club type cash. And you're telling me to buy a computer? And I don't know, but Ange just had a way of... Ange is the only person, like when Philadelphians start talking like this, then you need to listen. And she's like, please don't be a rap cliche. And I was like, okay, I won't be a rap cliche. So next thing I know, I wish I remembered Eric's last name. She's like, I'm gathering some nerds or whatever. And, you know, we're going to take matters in our own hands. And next thing I know, we went to Comp USA. Remember Comp USA?
I do. Cincinnati has one. I used to go there every time I went home for Christmas.
What a time, man.
Yeah.
I said, look, just get me... In my mind, I had like war games in mind because that was the only thing that I thought of. I was like, all right.
Do you want to play a game? That's
right. Greetings, Professor Vulcan. And literally, I was just like, look, for this money I'm spending... I was like, I want to have the capabilities of doing the same things that Matthew Broderick is doing in war games.
Launch some missiles. You want to do all that shit,
right? I want to be the music version of Matthew Broderick. So you know, and I forget what we purchased. I don't know if it was a Sony computer or just a regular Comp USA default model or whatever. But it took about, I think, 3 weeks for them to do the interface thing. And sure enough, we launched Okayplayer, I believe. I think we did a testing like maybe on the 20th of February, like slightly before the album came out.
Yeah.
But the day the album came out, I think we just literally waited there like it was a grand opening of a store.
I was gonna ask, what was it like watching the member count rise and shit?
Yeah, it did, and then I remember the very first thing was people's utter shock and disbelief that the actual Questlove was like answering them in real time. First of all, Rozelle is the one. I gotta credit Rozelle. Rozelle's the one that first planted the seed in my head that we were going too small. And he's like, I get that, you know, this is like the Roots website. He says, but because like Rozelle like was one of the earliest Roots members that was like lurking on the site and all that stuff. And he says, I don't know, man, you should make it like a mall. Like imagine if Okayplayer was like, you know, the mall in Minnesota that we just came from.
The Mall of America, yeah.
Right. And he explained to me like that, like, say you're the owner of the Mall of America and you just rent out sites to everyone else. And I thought about it. And then, you know, because then it was hard. We were hard pressed to find people that really wanted to first have the patience to understand it.
Yeah.
Common just looked at us like, no. And, you know, everyone else, like, it might as well have been like The Exorcist or something like, hey, D'Angelo, let me show. No, give me that.
Yeah, because what year? This was like a 99. Yeah, so like again, like nobody was really online at that point.
Right. And so for me, the one moment, and I also have to credit Ange for this as well, was the one day I let somebody diss us, like really diss us. And because my first response was like, you know, like, let's 86 this person, right? How do we 86 this person right here? Like that sort of thing. And she sort of said, like, I don't know if you want to start off with that precedent. Like, because then you don't want people to kiss your ass. You want real feedback, and this person's giving real feedback.
Yeah.
And I sat with her all night because it's just unprecedented to let somebody criticize you like, and you're here like, hello, like,
And they're just like, man, I don't know about track number 4. Oh, track 5, this shit is whack. Like,
right. And she was just like, let it go. Like, let this be a playground. Like, think of a playground where there's going to be bullies, your best friends,
Yep.
that sort of thing. And once I didn't 86, I forget who it was. Once I didn't 86 that person, and then there were more popping up. I'm like, wait, this is like Gremlins. Like, what happens if you add water, that sort of thing? And then it just got out of control. And then Rich was on it one night, and I think Rich first read something snarky. Like, one of the first snarks that I respected on the site, of course, is Frank.
Yeah, shout out to Frank.
Yeah, Frank. And like when Frank's post, like, it made Rich laugh in a way, because Rich would laugh and be like, he's telling the truth.
Yeah, like that's the thing about Frank. Frank is insightful and sharp and educated on what he's talking about. So he's not just baseless. You know what I'm saying? He has an opinion worth sharing.
Right. And so then there was a point where I thought that maybe that was Rich's ghost account or whatever. Because Rich was the only real life human being that I would let talk to us any sort of way.
Yeah.
We're like, what'd you think about that? Man, I'll suck dick. Like look, Rich pull no punches with if a show was bad or, that sort of thing. And then I just realized, like, oh, this isn't even about us. Like, this is us. We're now the landlords of a building.
Yeah.
And we're just going to let them run rampant. And that was about maybe, I'll say, around the time when we started making the live record. So I'll say like, maybe like August of 99.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like when you say, like that moment, when I think about that, thinking about it from the other side of the table, like you found your fans, but we found each other. Like, right. I found Frank, I found Vaughn, I found so many other people that are part of my life to this day. Mm-hmm. And it's based on that honesty that you gave people the space to have. You know what I'm saying? Like I might not have agreed with Frank. Like, I might have been like, man, you bugging, man. This shit's dope. And that started a conversation where, that sort of like honesty, you letting him be honest, let me be honest, and let more people be like, oh, they can have a real conversation in front of dude. You said something about you meet people to this day who are card-carrying members of Okayplayer. My question is, I was in a meeting once. My question has a story attached to it. I was in a meeting once, and it was a pitch meeting, and it was at a network. The guy took the meeting specifically so he could tell me, like,
hey, he's a lurker?
Okayplayer. And I was like, what? Like, before the meeting, it was after the meeting started, my bad. After the meeting, and he was like, by the way, Okayplayer. So my question is, I guess, I want to say famous lurkers or just lurkers in general, have you encountered in like...
Probably the most famous lurker, and he swears this story. So when we were making Wake Up, John Stevens, aka John Legend, is trying to convince me that 1, he was a lurker, 2, that he was always at Black Lily and never could get on or whatever. So yes, at one point, John was a student at University of Penn.
Yes.
That's his piano on Lauryn Hill's Everything is Everything. I believe that John and Miss Lauryn Hill's brother were students at Penn at the same time. And he put John on to learn. And like, so a lot of the piano on the Miseducation record is John Legend. Like, and so, but he claims that he was, and I was like, why didn't you speak up? And he was just like, I don't know if he's saying that he's introverted or just like not allowed to play in reindeer games, but all the time, like I'll meet flight attendants from flights, and it's always when people are in the food service industry, I get scared.
Like I dissed you.
Right. I'm like, and I was just a lurker, man. It educated me a lot. I'm like, oh yeah, cool. And I'm like watching him every 12 seconds to make sure you ain't taping my food. But I've probably now just the staggering amount of, because we're all grown now.
Yeah.
we're in our 40s and 50s and 60s. So a lot of us who were college students back then are now CEOs
Yep.
and
Government
executives.
officials and all types of shit.
Yeah, which, a lot of the realm, because I know there has to be people scratching, like, why is Ahmir everywhere? Like, does he have to be everywhere? And I swear to you, the gateway to all of that always starts with Okayplayer.